Hey YouTubers, it's your buddy Platt, and today we're going to use and review a Munton's home brewing kit. So let's go! So today we're kind of carrying on our theme of trying out the different homebrew kits that are out there, and today we're doing a Munton's home brewing kit that I found in my local brew shop. Muntons is a English-based company, does several different lines of different beer kits. Their main theme is what they call a keg and a can and a kilo. Basically, you'll get one of these cans of hop malt extract, and then you'll have to add a kilogram of some form of sugar, whether it be corn sugar, regular table sugar, what have you. And that generally ends up making around 6 US gallons or 5 British gallons of beer. They have other brew kits where instead of the can and the kilo, you get 2 cans, and that second can gives you the additional fermentable sugars. Muntons also does wine kits and cider kits, but they're most known for these can and kilo kits, and that's what today we're going to do a Bock beer, part of their connoisseur range, and they have gold range, gold plus range. They have several varieties, and they'll do stouts and other forms of beer, but this Bock is in part of their connoisseur, the basic range. When they talk about a kilogram or a can and a kilo, like I said, they're referring to you have to add an additional kilogram, roughly, of sugar to their recipe. You can use table sugar. I advise not to go that cheap or whatever. It'll work, but the taste will be off. What they generally recommend, and what your homebrew shop will have, is generally a bag of this dextrose, white corn sugar, what have you, and that's what I'll use today. But if you want to tweak these kits a little bit or kind of take it up a little, I might suggest you getting a bag of malt extract. That will give your beer the additional fermentable sugars you need, but you get a little more malt to it. It's not, if you just throw like plain sugar in there, you get a little sweet twang to the beer, where this will give you the additional malt flavor, just a really more kind of fulfilling beer. You'll still reach, the alcohol content you want or whatever, but I'm going to save this for another project. We're going to use the, I happen to have roughly a kilogram of malt extra, or corn sugar, dextrose I need to use, so that's what we'll use today. So, now we got everything, let's get to brewing. Okay, so let me show you our little setup here once we get going brewing. First thing you want to do is place your can of hop malt extract into some hot water. As in all these brew kits, the extract, whether it's hopped or unhopped, is very thick, very gooey. So you want to get into hot water. That's going to make it easier for it to come out. Next, we're going to want to heat up roughly 1 gallon US of water. We're going to eventually bring this up to boil, and that's going to help us mix everything together, get our sugars all stirred in, the dextrose, when we put everything together. And last but not least is sanitize. I've got sanitizer in the bucket. I've got my can opener, my spoon to stir everything with. They give you brief instructions on sanitization in the kit, but if you have more questions, you feel free to always check back to my home brewing sanitization video. Let me get this up to a boil, and we'll come back and put everything together. Alright, so I got my water up to pretty close to a boil. I've got my bucket right here sanitized. I've got everything ready to go. And so let's start with our malt extract. I've taken the lid off already, and we're just going to dump this at the bottom of our sanitized bucket. Like I said, you can tell this pretty thick, gooey stuff. We'll let that drain out. You might want to get your handy spoon to kind of get some of the stuff out. go. I'll show you a little trick that kind of helps out. You want to be careful doing this. Take a little measuring cup glass over and go in and get you just a little bit of that boiling water. We're going to dump in there. Be sure not to grab the bottom, but the top. We're going to swizzle this around. And this is going to help us get every last drop of that really thick gooiness. I might do it one more time. Like I said, just a little bit. Be careful, this stuff is hot. Alrighty. And there we go. We got most of that out of the can. And now we're going to want to add our kilo of, like I said, whatever you choose, corn sugar, table sugar, malt extract. If you want to go that direction, like I said, I'm using the corn sugar dextrose. We're just going to dump her in. There you go. And now I'm done with my water. Turn her off. And we're just going to dump her in. Be careful for splashing. Alright. Now we're going to stir her all in. Let's make sure there's no lumps or clumps in the dextrose there. You'll probably start getting a nose full of that malt. You can smell a little bit of the hops. Oh yeah, this is smelling good. And you just want to keep stirring until you make sure you got everything all stirred in. Alrighty, I'm going to stir this up for another minute and we'll come back and we'll fill her up with cold water. Alright, so I've got our fermenter filled with cold water, and that's helped bringing our wort down to the proper temperature. We're shooting for somewhere around room temperature, 65 to 75 degrees. And this is a good point. If you have a hydrometer at home, if you've done brewing a little bit, you'd want to take your original gravity reading. And we hit our projected original gravity according to the instruction. We're going to hit somewhere between 1040 and 1044, and we hit 1040. And if our yeast works the way it should, and if we hit our final gravity, that should come out to about 10.08, and that will get us roughly 5% ABV, which is kind of low technically for a Bock, but this is a kit. This will kind of do for us. At this point, once we got it down to temperature, this is when we add our yeast. And I want to talk to you about this real quick, because this is where you kind of tweak things a little bit. Underneath the can or the lid, they give you the generic pack of just generic yeast. Doesn't really say any more than that. It's just a yeast. And if you check the website, it's just a generic yeast. They didn't even claim that it's either an ale or a lager yeast, but the temperatures they suggest, this is probably a ale yeast. The gentleman at my home brew shop, actually, when he sold it to me, gave me a pack of Munton's new active brew yeast and said this is kind of their generic yeast, just even better, even cleaner. And that's what we'll use today. But if you want to take it up a notch, I suggest trying a lager yeast. Remember, a Bock is a lager style beer, and try using, I have the Saf Lager S23, but any kind of lager, depending on where you want to go, will work for this. Now, if you change yeast, remember you're probably going to have to change temperatures on holding it. The nice thing about these generic brewing yeast is they're pretty much work in a wider range, warmer temperatures, and usually work around room temperatures. If we went with the lager yeast, we're probably going to have to put it into either a dark closet, a basement, somewhere where it's a little bit cooler, more into the 50s. But today I'm just going to use this active yeast. And we'll use the exact pack. That's exactly for this size of brew. And again, part of the great thing about these yeast is they're sturdy yeast, and all we need to do is sprinkle. We won't have to do starters or rehydrate. Maybe in a future video I'll get into that. Not maybe, but one day I will get into that, kind of show you the benefits and explain going into that. But we're going to add our yeast, and let me get this lid sealed up, and we'll come back to wrap up. So to wrap up with our Muntons Bock beer kit, the can along with a kilogram of dextrose or corn sugar, we brewed up roughly 6 gallons, 5 gallons UK of Bock beer that should come out around 5% ABV. We're going to let that ferment for about 1 week, and at the end of that week we'll bottle, and we'll let bottles sit at room temperature roughly 2 to 3 days, and then after that we'll throw in the refrigerator and let sit for about 2 weeks, and then we'll be ready to drink. A couple of ideas on how to tweak this recipe. The first idea is that we reduce the volume from 6 gallons to 5, and then we use malt, or the dried malt extract instead of the dextrose, and instead of a kilogram, which is roughly 2.2 pounds, maybe take it up to 3 pounds of just dried malt extract, throw in there, and we're going to bump up the ABV and get this beer closer to a Doppelbock than per se just a generic Bock, somewhere around 7.58% ABV. Another thing you might want to do with this beer, if you want to get a little creative, push the boundaries, is actually split some of it off, and after primary fermentation, freeze it, and then, you know, scoop up some of the ice off of it. A good example is like making Applejack or whatever. This beer is referred to as an ice Bock, and they get up to 9, 10, 11% ABV. But to me, there's 2 options you have if you want to tweak it. Like I said, you could always tweak the yeast too on that. Well, I hope you enjoy this video, and if you did, please like and share the video, and also please subscribe to the channel. Any questions, concerns, comments, always feel free to leave them in the comment section, or you can contact me on the Twitter page. Well, until next time, bottoms up.